my God. It was just a day of straw man arguments on Fox talking about a Bears quarterback, the most exciting in any of our lifetimes, who wasn't playing, talking about why, because he wasn't playing in a Week 11 game or whatever it was against the Jets, that they can't win the Super Bowl and it's going to be a problem big picture. As if all of those guys didn't also get hurt. As if Terry Bradshaw never hurt his shoulder. As if Trent Dilfer and Troy Aikman and pocket passers didn't also suffer injuries. It was a very frustrating day for me to consume football talk and not be able to have Justin Fields take it out on the opponent.
You know why I can't take it out on the opponent?
Because he's hurt.
Because he's hurt, Danny.
I know. I heard that. I heard that argument.
It just emboldens them. It makes it the easiest thing to do.
Right.
It is a short attention span for Terry Bradshaw and everybody else. He's got 20 seconds to make his point.
Right.
He doesn't bother to go deeper.
No. Why would he? But pocket passers do get hurt also, right?
Yeah, they do. They get hurt a lot.
Running backs, linemen, receivers, safeties, linebackers, corners, right? Eddie Jackson got hurt. Darnell Mooney got hurt. Players get hurt, right?
Football is an evil and brutal game.
Yeah. So it's a sport of injury.
Yeah.
It's a sport. You play it long enough, you will get hurt, period.
I always remember the first time, like, Ruben was, like, really conscious watching football. He's like, Daddy, they're mauling each other.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, every play. That's what they do.
My buddy Eric Winston used to be the head of the NFL Players Association, longtime NFL tackle. I was in the locker room when he had that rant that went viral when, like, some Chiefs fans on the upper deck were cheering when Matt Castle got hurt. And he was
right.
He's like, we are not gladiators. And I literally talked to him the next day, and I was like, this was not on the air or whatever, but I was like, it was super passionate. It was like one of the coolest teammate moments that I've ever seen in my life. And, pretty young, so it wasn't that impressive. Hadn't been living that long, but it was like, you are the gladiators. You know that, right? You're the closest thing that the North American sports fan has to the modern day gladiator. Mm-hmm. And he begrudgingly understood the logic of it. And, the fans can be barbaric. It's a barbaric game. But you can't play football in fear of injury. And Justin Fields right now is running a lot. He's running at a historic rate. The Bears as a team are running at a historic rate. He needs to get better as a passer. He needs to protect himself. As he gets better as a passer and as they get better at catching passes and get better around him, he will run less. As his athleticism wanes, he will run less. But right now, what makes him special is the running. And so he's going to run. It
is the weaponry that allows you to have an offense that exploded the way that the Bears, Luke Getsy, Justin Fields offense did.
You just saw, if you remove special athlete runner from the Bears offense, you get touchdown drive, field goal drive, 4 straight drives with no first downs, 0 points the rest of the game. Congratulations on your sub 300-yard game, your 4 third down conversions, Trevor Siemian, and a blowout loss. Justin Fields plays, you score 29 points against the Cowboys, you score 33 against Bill Belichick and the Patriots, you average 30 points a game for a 5-game stretch, and you set NFL records.
So yesterday during the game, I'm taking notes on what was viable, of course. I'm on Twitter a little bit, my Clevenger news breaks, and all sorts of stuff's going on. And the game is on, and Joe Davis and Moose Johnston were on, but I can't say I was locked in 100% on everything they had to say in the third and the fourth. But I did hear this field stuff that just kept going and going and going.
We might stop some of this. We'll feel it. We'll feel it out here. But here is Joe Davis, Moose Johnston on Fields, what you can and what, more importantly, you can't do.
So I want to take you back to what you said about availability being so important. That's one of the big questions when it comes to Justin Fields. The Bears feel like they found their guy in Fields, but can they deploy him the way that they want to sustainably?
That is a huge question, and that is something for this organization to try and sort out. I think everybody's looking at it from how is he going to grow as a passer down the stretch here in 2022. I just don't think he could have handled that workload the way they were working in the last 6 weeks.
So really, when you're talking about the Bears and Justin Fields in the future, there's kind of a couple questions to it, right? There's, can you do this sustainably? He runs a bunch. And say you can sustain it, can you win it all like that? Can you win with a running quarterback? Because nobody has, really.
No, that's because you need your quarterback to be playing his best football at the end of the season, in December, into January, into the playoffs, and you go to the availability. Can he even play? Is he available to us because of injuries? 122 carries for Justin Fields up until this point. Over the last 6 weeks when they found this style of play offensively, he's been averaging 15 carries a game during that time. That puts him out into the 200 teens in carries for a season. That is not sustainable if you want to make it into the playoffs and take a push, in my opinion, because you've just stretched your quarterback far too much during the course of the season.
You know, really two parts to the question. Can you sustain it? And if the answer to that is yes, can you win it all like that? So you mentioned the 122 rushes this season. That's really high, and there's still, a month plus of this season to go where he's going to be threatening the all-time mark for a quarterback in a season, right up there with Lamar Jackson. No quarterback has ever won a Super Bowl with anything close to this pace running the ball. So most rush attempts by a quarterback in a single season, and again, it's Lamar Jackson all over the top of the leaderboard. And then when you're looking at, can you do this? Can you run this style and win it all? And maybe that's too high a bar for where the Bears are at right now. Maybe you're not quite yet thinking about winning a Super Bowl. You're just trying to think about getting back to the playoffs, being good again. I don't know how you want to slice this, but Russell Wilson is the all-time leader in rush attempts during the regular season to then go on and win a Super Bowl, and he didn't even have 100.
Yeah. Stop it. Okay.
So they chose rushing attempts for a full season.
Yeah, and fine. But just because something hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it can't happen or even that it's unlikely to happen. Case in point, I haven't had dinner yet, but I'm going to have dinner. Pretty likely to happen. I don't know what it's going to be yet, Shane. Not sure what it's going to be, but we're going to eat food tonight. Like, someone is going to win.
You approve of dinner, okay.
Someone's going to win a Super Bowl very soon and break that Russell Wilson mark, which they talked about like it was ancient history. It was 2013 when he had the 96 carries and he won it. Like, Josh Allen has 81 carries this year. He had 122 last year. Clearly
in the Super Bowl conversation every year.
In the Super Bowl conversation every single year.
How about Cam?
I got it.
Okay.
2015, Cam Newton, when he won the MVP. 132 rushes, 636 rushing yards, 10 rushing touchdowns.
But he didn't win the Super Bowl.
15
He was in the Super Bowl.
In the Super Bowl. 2 rushing touchdowns, by the way, in the playoffs. So still ran at the same clip, same effectiveness throughout the playoff run. Got to the Super Bowl, didn't win it. How about Jalen Hurts? 127 rushing attempts this year. Clearly can win the Super Bowl, looking like they're going to be the 1 seed in the NFC. Lamar Jackson, been to the playoffs 3 times, has won a playoff game. Mike Vick, Colin Kaepernick have all won playoff games.
Kaepernick made the Super Bowl with a great defense, yes.
So, a lot of nuance can exist here. Like Trent Dilfer saying that how they ran him against Atlanta was too risky and too dangerous, and you got to slide, and you got to get out of bounds, and you want to get to the edges, and you don't want to do too much power, and it'll decrease as you go throughout your career. And all of that nuance is fine, and you got to get better as a passer. All of that's fine. But this idea, when they put a graphic up there that shows most rushing attempts to ever win a Super Bowl, and it's Russell Wilson, Steve Young, John Elway, and Roger Staubach. Roger Staubach, it could not be less relevant to what the league is today.
Now, Roger Staubach was a terrific runner as a quarterback.
So was Roger Staubach.
And it harkened back to days gone by, that's for sure.
But, how?
The cyclical, weird-ass league.
How is that at all? Honestly, I don't even feel like John Elway and Steve Young are that relevant, man. Steve Young, his career high for rushing attempts was 76. You know what this felt like? It felt like when you talk about the three-point shot in the NBA and you look up
Larry Bird's three-point numbers.
Larry Bird's three-point numbers compared to Steph Curry.
Sure.
And the most that Larry Bird ever made, the most that Larry Bird ever attempted in a season is fewer than Steph Curry has made in the last 7 seasons. You know what I mean? It's a different sport. they are playing a different league. They are different caliber of athletes.
Sure, it's kind of like looking at Fergie Jenkins' complete game numbers.
Yeah, right.
On some level.
We didn't understand sports science. There wasn't bullpenning. The whole thing. So this idea that you can't win a Super Bowl with a running quarterback when a running quarterback has been in the Super Bowl or been the 1 seed or won 15 games or won the MVP feels like so like you're cherry picking data points. You got to look at rush attempts by the guys who won. Well, okay. That's a real small guys who have won Super Bowls. There's like 50 of them.
Yeah, and rushing attempts is not necessarily fair either because that doesn't have the nuance in it as well as a stat in terms of when it was a scramble and when it was a designed run and how many offensive plays there were, how long the guy was playing during the course of the year, etc.
Yeah, so I think this idea that the Bears are somehow like hurtling in the direction of unsustainable offensive football is ludicrous. It's the exact opposite. I think that if you asked general managers today, like mobility, running as a quarterback, I think it would be really high on your list. Like maybe like intelligence would be 1, accuracy would be 2. But I think mobility would certainly be a top 5 attribute, if not top 3.
Yes, for the escapability idea, for the way that you can use it to escape and then create, not necessarily to use as a schematic design.
For some, yes. For some, no. Like Josh Allen's rushing attempts per game will go up in the big games. They'll go up in the postseason. Now, obviously, he has added the passing to his game, which is why he's an MVP candidate every year. Mm-hmm. Jalen Hurts has the best offensive line in football, 2 awesome wide receivers, and all of a sudden the 53rd pick in the draft, some days he throws for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, other days he runs for 150 and 2.
Side note, I've been looking for all year like leaders in designed runs as NFL quarterbacks. It's probably Fields 1, Lamar 2, Josh Allen 3, maybe Jalen 4, but that would give me some added context to the conversation. But either way, here's the thing. And I said this earlier, like we are at the epicenter of what is the principal debate in this sport these days. Can you have a quarterback who does this? Well, the simple way to discuss it would be like they just discussed it. Let's look at rushing attempts. And the answer, history tells you no.
Yeah.
That is a simple and somewhat lazy way to discuss it. Within the confines of a football game, maybe it's the best they could do, and they're instigating conversation.
It was just clearly planned because the graphics were built, and all I wanted someone to say is, but it's clearly changing. Because every year, Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and Justin Fields and Kyler Murray and those guys are all going to have more rushing attempts than Russell Wilson did in 2013. So that number's falling. Whether it falls this year, next year, or the year after that, like that number is falling, and then they'll just move the goalposts, and they'll be like, "Well, no one's won a Super Bowl with more than 120 rushing attempts."
Right.
You know what I mean? So that number is falling, and it's falling in the next couple of years.
Yeah, because you've got a lot of people doing it. Did we grab the Greg Cosell? This is Greg Cosell from the Ross Tucker podcast. Now that's a smart guy. That's a smart guy in a very different context, with different freedoms to discuss it.
Yeah.
Talking about Justin Fields and what this offense is doing that I think is like, it's another way of discussing the same thing. And it's not just he might get hurt. Listen to Greg Cosell on Ross Tucker's pod talking about what the Bears are doing, running him, and what they're doing as a passing offense.
By NFL standards, and what I'm about to say is based purely on tape, by NFL standards, their pass game is remedial and elementary. They run the ball with Fields, both by design, and he makes special out-of-structure plays. So, can you play quarterback in the NFL like that? In other words, are we going to say that, hey, some quarterbacks are just different than what, the conventional? In other words, I'm just an old guy who's thinking about quarterback 20 years ago, and that, hey, running is just as important or more important than passing for an NFL quarterback if that's what your skill set is. So that comes back to my question. What have we learned about Justin Fields this year? They don't really run an NFL passing game in a strict sense, and we know he's a dynamic, explosive runner who's 230 pounds.
See, I find that really interesting because that's saying, okay, you're going to run them a lot. You're not bothering to build an NFL passing offense. And that's why guys like Mike Martz get pissed. That's why guys like Cosell even can say, oh, wait, the game is changing. Are we really doing this? And I love that that's an intelligent guy saying, well, maybe I got to question this. Or is this what's happening, right? So that's a way to think about it intelligently. Can you win a game? Can you win a Super Bowl with a remedial passing offense in the NFL?
We'll see. And I don't think the thing that's so maddening about it, about Fields, I guess to me was two things. One, what I just said about how no one pointed out, like, but that's changing clearly because of all these other guys.
In terms of volume.
Yeah, in terms of volume. But the other part is they are talking about it like it's a finished product. You are literally broadcasting a game that shows what he has to work with. There's nothing there.
Mm-hmm.
So what's it going to look like if they draft a number one wide receiver and sign a right tackle and sign a guard, and it's now Claypool and Mooney and a rookie wide receiver who produces like Chris Olave, down in New Orleans, and they sign their version of Teron Armstead, and they upgrade the offense, and all of a sudden, and Fields develops, in the offense, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay. They're getting better.
Well, will they still schematically be trying to cut the field in half as much as they are? Will they still be limiting the route tree and the possibilities that these wide receivers are getting to run? Chase Claypool's already talked about that the route tree is vastly different and very limited based on what he has done in the past.
Yeah, I assume the answer to that is it will continue to get more sophisticated as they get better players and Justin Fields gets more comfortable within it. I assume the answer is that. I don't know why this really smart quarterback who was a pocket passer at Ohio State in the Big Ten in a pro-style offense winning games from the pocket would all of a sudden come to the NFL and only be a scrambler. I don't know why. They didn't draft him to only be a scrambler.
He's definitely not only a scrambler, definitely not only a runner, but they are limiting the things, which is what we've wanted them to do. Which is what we wanted them to do. The question is whether that, I guess what I'm saying is I have more patience for the conversation if at least it is informed, because the conversation is large scale NFL. What are we doing? Where are we going? When it's not informed and it's too simplified, like Moose and Davis with one number, and that's just that.
Yeah.
I totally understand why it was enraging to you.
Well, so I'm curious. Phone lines are lighting up. 312-644-6767. Is this a concern that Bears fans have? That somehow what Justin Fields is doing is not sustainable. He's going to be hurt. He's never going to develop. You're never going to be able to win with this type of quarterback. Is that still a thing that the majority of Bears fans feel in 2022? That strikes me as crazy if you watch the rest of the NFL. I'm just going to be honest with you.
You know what I'd like to see? Win a Super Bowl with an immobile quarterback. One of Speaks limpers out there. Maybe diabetes.
Yeah.
Had to take off one of the feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to
Win a Super Bowl with a quarterback who can't move. Which one do you want?
That'd be tough. I'll take the one who can move.
Is Ryan Mallett still out there? That was my guy.
Yeah, Tom Brady on line one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I just can't imagine looking at Justin Fields' mobility, athleticism, and the designed running game and thinking that it's a negative and not a terrifying thing that keeps defensive coordinators up at night.
No,
obviously he needs to develop the passing game because you're not going to be able to run like this when you're 32, 34 years old. I'm not saying the passing game isn't a bigger part of quarterbacking in the NFL, but the idea that this is somehow like a negative or a limiting factor and not the thing that makes him potentially generationally special is devoid of logic to me.